Hello everybody, and welcome to this very special Star Wars Day episode of whatever the hell I'm doing. And today, since it is Star Wars Day, I figure I'd bring you into a process that I do normally each year for Comic-Con, and today we're going to be doing on this channel. I was going to do this cosplay for Motor City Comic-Con, but due to unforeseen events, I wasn't able to do this cosplay. However, since this is my channel, we can go ahead and make this cosplay here. This is a Darth Nihilus costume. Darth Nihilus was a Sith Lord during the time of Knights of the Old Republic, specifically Knights of the Old Republic 2, and was part of the first Sith Triumvirate, with the other two Sith consisting of Darth Traya and Darth Sion. Darth Nihilus himself was a wound in the Force, and the only way that he could sustain himself was by draining the living Force energy out of other beings. He was even able to basically drain entire planets of their life force and consume them. He was also known as the Lord of Hunger. But now that we've gotten some of that character backstory out of the way, let's go ahead and break down the costume itself to its base level. So breaking down the costume itself, we're going to be starting from, well, we'll start from right up here where I already have some material on, and then we'll work our way forward. So firstly, what you're going to need is a black or very, very dark gray turtleneck. This is for when you have the mask on and the black hood on, and that way pretty much every part of your body is covered head to toe in black. Secondly, you're going to be needing some dark black pants or some slacks. Black jeans will work also if you have any of those, but I recommend if you want to go as dark as possible with them, I recommend going with some slacks or some black work pants. Next up, a set of boots. These are some black Funtasma Costume boots that I got off of Amazon. All the links for most of these will be down in the description below for anyone who wants to actually attempt this cosplay. You can get it all sized to however you want. But like I said, these are some black Funtasma costume boots that I used for my Han Solo costume last year. And they work really, really well for this. You can go with a slightly different design for the boots if you want to slightly change it up a bit, give it a more I don't know, sort of, more interesting designs, but the flat black ones work really well. Going up next, we have a pair of costume gloves. These are what can be described as either biker gloves or Zorro gloves. They're fairly elongated and they reach past the wrist. They're fairly long. You can also use these gloves for like a Darth Vader costume at the same time, but you have to make sure that they have a fairly decent amount of length to them, so that way it covers up the wrist. Like I said again, we're going to be covering up all the skin here, so it's like that's pretty important. That and Nihilus's gloves themselves were actually decently long, so that's what you'll be looking for. Next up is the black hood and the Nihilist Mask itself. Now the black hood is something that you can get off of Amazon and pretty much any party store that sells like morph suits. This is a hood of a black morph suit that you can you can get this off of Amazon fairly cheaply. I think like $10, not even that. And it's just something that you put on over your head. It completely blacks out your face for underneath. And, you put this mask on and it looks like there's just nothing underneath there. Going to the Nihilist Mask itself, this was a 3D print that I got off of eBay. Again, links will be in the description down below. I sanded it down really fine with many different grits of sandpaper, going finer and finer, and I custom painted it to the specifications of what Nihilus's mask is. The silver detailing, the red eye marks that are right here, and instead of it being just a plain white, what I did was I scuffed it up a bit and I went ahead and went in with a black wash, and I've toned it down a bit, made it a bit weathered, and just made it look more, I guess, realistic, if you will. Next up is a belt, just a black belt if you can find one. If you have one, just a plain black leather belt, and a Covertec belt clip. This is something that if you have a lightsaber, or if you plan on having a lightsaber on your person, at your side, for most of a convention or anything like that, this is a way of attaching the lightsaber itself to your person. Speaking of lightsabers themselves, this is the Darth Vader Force Effects lightsaber. While I don't have my Darth Nihilus lightsaber with me yet, it is on its way. With the Nihilist costume itself, he does have a very specific lightsaber, and for that lightsaber in general, I will also be putting a link in the description for the Etsy provider who's doing the lightsaber for me, and it looks absolutely beautiful. But if you don't have $150 lying around for just the lightsaber, this is a good alternative. Or just one of those $50 Force Effects lightsabers on Amazon or anything like that. This is the Darth Vader Force Effects lightsaber, and I got this a few years ago, and it's still really nice. It's fully metal and urethane castings and all that sort of stuff. It's a really nice lightsaber. Next up, a skirt. I can hear some of you that are gonna be like, what, a skirt? What's wrong with you? But Nihilus himself has a long flowing skirt. This is a wool skirt, and what I've done with it is I've taken it, I've weathered the bottom of it, I cut it up, put it into strands and all that sort of stuff, put holes all throughout it so that way it looks more torn and weathered. When I get to actually putting on the costume, I'll show you how to, do all that sort of stuff. Next up is the wrap and the tunic. Now, the wrap itself is something that will go around the tunic. It goes fairly around like that, so that way it's all nice and wrapped around. It sucks in your gut a bit. And this right here is a Jedi Tunic that I got off of Amazon for about $40–50. This Jedi Tunic, what I've done to it is I've cut off the arms to it. I took off the fabric straps that would go on over the shoulders. I've weathered it at the bottom here to make it more strandy and flowy, and to just fit the overall appearance of the costume itself. And finally, we have the cape or hood. This is a wool Renaissance hood / cape that I got off of Wish. It's a fairly hefty material that flows pretty nicely. It looks good on the costume and it looks pretty decent on camera. Just like with some of the other material, I weathered the bottom a bit so that way it looks more torn up and more flowing. But overall, it's a really decent product and definitely ties the whole thing together. Now, with most costumes like this, modification is going to be inevitable. Everyone is going to modify their costume in their own specific way to give them a more unique feel to how they want to portray Nihilus. If you want to keep a lot of the stuff pristine and make it so that way this is a Nihilus who's just, formed his costume and just formed his Jedi robes, or Sith robes in that case, then yeah, you can do that. But I myself personally, I've torn up things here and there just to make it a little bit more accurate to the costume that we see in Knights of the Old Republic. But let's go ahead and stop with all the description stuff and let's go ahead and actually put on this costume. So I went ahead and moved the location a bit. I went ahead and already put on the boots, so that's all taken care of. Second material we're going to be putting on is the tunic and the belt strap. Now the tunic itself, fairly self-explanatory. It's almost like a vest in a way. The one thing I'll also say for this cosplay in general, do not trust any eBay providers that have a full Nihilus costume. Usually they'll be around $80 or so on eBay, and they're okay if you're looking for something cheap for your child to put on them for Halloween. But if you're looking for a fairly decent Nihilus costume from the ground up, built and purposely made as a Nihilus costume, you're gonna have to fork out a little bit more money for that. Whether it be building it from the ground up yourself or going to an Etsy provider who has already done through that process. Sometimes those materials can range up to $1,200 in some cases if you're really looking for full screen accuracy. Now the belt strap itself attaches on with Velcro, and it goes around fairly decently. Alright, so now that we've got that strap on, we're also going to be putting on the black belt. So putting this on is like just putting on any other belt. There's no other sort of real modifications that you really need to do with it. It just has to be a black leather belt, straps around fairly easily, a black belt. Once you have that strapped on nice and tight there, then you turn it around and expose it so that way it's not having that belt buckle out there, and just center it as best you can on the actual fabric belt strap. I'm gonna have to backtrack this a bit because we forgot to put on the skirt. Of all the things I forgot to do, we forgot to put on the very first thing in this costume. The skirt is one of the more important materials on this thing because, it adds a nice bit of flowing nature to the whole costume, other than what you'll already get with the cape. And it's fairly easy to put this on, you just... Okay. So now that we have the skirt on, that'll be all nice and uptight there. Then we go back to the tunic. That covers up the seam between the, the upper part of the skirt and this fairly well. I'm just going to go ahead and put the rest of the materials on since you're basically know how to put those materials on already. So now that we've got everything all centered again, let's go ahead and continue where we left off before we messed up with the skirt. Next up, we're actually going to be putting on the mask, which I gotta take these off for, as well as the Covertec belt clip for all those carrying their own lightsabers. Just fairly clip that on. There we go. And now for the black hood. So what you do here is just unzip it and just pop it on over. And with the mask, you just tuck it into the actual turtleneck itself, and there you go, you have yourself a very blacked out face. Next up from there is the actual mask itself. Now with this, I actually had to glue on some elastic strap so that way I could actually put it on. So, fairly easy to this, just pops on over, get it nice and set there on your nose, and boom, Darth Nihilus. The hood. Now, for this, there's no arm straps to it or anything like that, so what we're going to do is just pop on the hood itself, find the actual straps here for the neckline. I am covering up my face because I am ugly! Strap it on like that and readjust the hood slightly. Now what I do is I go ahead and strap the little bit here at the top of the mask right up to the top of this hood here. Now traditionally Darth Nihilus has a very squared top to his appearance, but I didn't have the time or material to actually make that squared off top, but maybe next time. And the final bit of this cosplay is the gloves. So we're just going to be putting those on right here real quick. And last but not least, the lightsaber. So that's pretty much it. This is the full Darth Nihilus costume that I have. It's all nice and flowing. Yes. But overall, this is a pretty decent cosplay. And hopefully you guys, if you're enjoying these videos, I hope you guys have a happy May the 4th. And tune into my next review when it comes out. Hopefully it should be in the next week or so. So, y'all have a good one.